understand in terms of material list like we have been doing is that we need to know that there is something that is referred to as pipework. So pipework is very important. Why pipework? Because we require what we refer to as PVC, right? So the PVC, or definitely the conduit or the pipes, is what we require to have in the walls or even in the ceiling, so that our pipes will always have the cables secured, so that we don't have. Remember, when it comes to electrical, like we were talking about it last time in our safety video, we said that the qualities of an electrical installation is that, number one, it is supposed to safeguard the users, right? So it is supposed to ensure that people who occupy that home are safe. Another important thing is that the wiring has to protect itself against self-sabotage. I don't know whether this is something that we can discuss or it exists in electrical, but it has to protect against self-sabotage, so that in case the cables come in contact with each other and then there is a short circuit, is it supposed to escalate into a flame burning down the property? No. If we have the PVC, it means that we are securing. Anytime that there is an issue, it doesn't blow up to become a fire that will burn down your investment. Now, as a homeowner, another thing that you need to know is that the wiring is supposed to protect the home, right? So this is where now what we normally talk about ceiling pipework comes in handy. Majority of the electricians conduct an electrical installation but intentionally refuse to watch out ceiling pipework. At Topites Electricals and Electricians, we have ensured that we take ceiling pipework with a lot of why? Because in the ceiling, temperatures are usually very high. So it makes the insulation on the wires to soften. This may even lead to the insulation to come off, especially for people who are fond of using insulation tapes, or if you are struggling in terms of the wiring materials, whether you are a homeowner, a developer, an electrician, or a DIYer who wants to understand clearly the material list, or is just anxious to know what are the material lists for wiring a 1-bedroom or a 2-bedroom, let me know in the comment section, and we will also be assisting you when it comes to that. So agreed that pipework is very important. We'll start with 2 conduits. All right, we'll start with conduits depending on the size of that home, depending on the size of or the magnitude. Remember, when it comes to the number of conduits that you require, the customer will definitely be saying that, you know what, I need CCTV installation and it has to be quoted in that. I also need smoke detectors. All right, you're supposed to factor in that. I also require 2-way switch systems for my lighting. You also know that will require extra pipework. Another thing is definitely if the client or you as a homeowner requires more power outlets or more socket. All right, this one you definitely need to know that you will require more pipework. That is for CCTV, for CCTV as well as sockets. That one definitely means that you require 20. So here we will have 25 and then here we can have lighting. So we'll have lights. So you require conduits as well as for lighting, as well as CCTV, smoke detectors, and also we require pipework for sockets. In many cases, you find that it is recommended for sockets, you require 2 conduits. So for a 1-bedroom or a 2-bedroom, for sockets you require 20, for smoke detection you require 20, for CCTV you require 25, and for lights you require. So in many cases you find that for 2 conduits you will basically be working on the lighting system that you have, and that is where majority of the conduits are used. Do you want to know the exact quotation that you require for building your own home or for constructing a home for your client? Let me know, and I will definitely be glad to know any challenges that you come across my top bosses. Moving on, apart from pipework, the number 2 important aspect that you do require. Remember, in the pipework, we also have mentioned PVC. It's not only conduits, but we also require something else, which is the circular boxes. Top bosses, circular boxes. Why circular boxes? How important are circular boxes? Remember, we require to terminate, or we require places whereby these conduits will join together. All right, so let me just do the old way of doing stuff. I understand that the people who are in other learning institutions will definitely come up with better ways of drawing. But assuming that we have a bulb here, so this one is a bulb at the center or a lighting point, and then we have a consumer unit at this point, so it means that the mains will be connected at this, and assuming that we have a switch at this point, assuming it is a one-way switch, so we'll have a switch S1 here, and then we will definitely have another circuit. So this is the consumer unit. We require a box here, which is a circular box, and then we have a switch. So this switch activates this lighting point. At the same time, this circular box is serving a purpose of delivering a power supply to this circuit. It could be in the kitchen, it could be in the dining. You never know, my top bosses. But when you visit the customer, you are supposed as an electrician to design this system. And remember, once you have designed it, you are supposed to do it in a perfect way in consultation with your clients so that you don't cut the walls after plastering has been done, especially if you are there from the start. That is why it is good for clients to always stick with the electrician from the word go until the completion of a project, especially if the electrician is a qualified one, like the ones that we have here at Top Heights Electricals and Solar. If you have one of our technicians, will definitely be helping you throughout the project so that you don't make the common mistakes that majority of the electricians make and result in costing their clients a lot of money as well as their property. All right, moving on, my top bosses, we have said that indeed we require circular boxes. In the ceiling, another important thing that we require is circular covers. Majority of the electricians bypass this aspect. Why do you need a circular cover in the ceiling? Remember, like we said at the beginning, in the ceiling there are a lot of high temperatures, right? So if you are terminating the cables here, and for many people who use an insulation tape, it may not survive extreme temperatures in the ceiling. That is why it is important for you to conceal the circular box so that you may limit the impact of the temperatures on the joints and on the insulation tape. That one is an important tip that I've given you, my top boss, that deserves a like. So if that is something that you have gained today, hit that like button. Of course, I know that you knew it, but let me know. Of wire. Is it in terms of size, quality, or what? Choice of wire. That is an important question from our top boss. His name is IN Blevin. Thank you so much, Blevin, for your question. The choice of cable matters. I remember when in high school, our physics teacher told us that there are some factors that affect the circulation of current in a wire, or simply put, factors affecting the flow of electricity, or what determines the conductivity of a wire, or what are the qualities of a current carrying conductor. The first one we were told is definitely the material. Number two is definitely the size, and number three is the length. Now, how do these play a key factor in the choice of the material? As an electrician, you're supposed to know this. As a person that is coming up with a property, you're a property developer, you are a home builder, especially if you are a homeowner building a home for yourself, for your retirement, as well as for your loved ones. Did you know that this is an investment that you really need to consider in terms of the material? Why? Because this will also determine the longevity of your property. In fact, if you go with cables that are purely copper, it means that its lifespan will be elongated because you will not have constant repairs on the wiring. Number two, it means that this wiring can outlive the life of your property or even your life, which is very important. You don't want to go back doing repairs which are also costly. The size of the material matters a lot. In this sense, the material, which is the wire. If, for instance, you decide to go with 1.5 for socket wiring instead of 2.5 for socket wiring, the real question is, what if someone decides, the lawyer in me is coming up. What if someone decides to plug in an electric heater in that socket, which was wired using a 1.5? It means that the insulation will start overheating, melting, and it will come off. This will definitely come together, either the live and the neutral or the live and the earthing, short-circuiting it, and this may either trip the circuit breaker and it will cost you an entire wiring. Why? Listen to this. There's a house that I visited some time back. My client had called me, and when they complained that there was a lot of smoke in the ceiling, burning smell, I inspected and found out that there were cables which were overheating. The problem was that they melted the pipes or the conduits. Now, this one called for an entire overhaul of that circuit because you cannot rewire in those conduits. They were already burning, melting, and also coming together, so that this space was constricted. There is no way you could have pulled the old cables or pulled new installation. So we had to do away with the entire wiring before we could actually have a new wiring. So in the long run, the customer spent a lot. Now, that is the problem of using the wrong size. So the size of the cable matters. If you're going with the lighting, you're supposed to go with 1.5, all right? So back to our material list when it comes to wiring. So like we have agreed that for lights, we need 1.5. Now, when it comes to heaters, especially the instant shower, we require 4.0 cables. In many cases, you find that for a one bedroom or a two bedroom, you do not require an entire roll of cable. For instance, for red, for black, as well as for green or for the earthy, you only require some few meters. From the consumer units, on average, it could be probably around 20 meters. That is from the consumer unit to the double pole activating the shower, and from the shower and from the double pole switch to the shower. So it's probably around 10 meters to 15 meters. But when giving the customer the quotation, you are required to be on the safe side, which is 20 meters if I were you. Now, my top boss when it comes to 1.5 cables, this is very interesting. You find that the red cables will be used in plenty. So in fact, in a one bedroom, you may find that you use 2 to 3 rolls, because you might not exhaust the 3 rolls of red cables. And then when it comes to black cables, there are circuits where you will not require the black 1.5 cables to run to. For instance, if you are connecting a two-way switch system, all right, unless if you are wiring a smart home. A smart home will require provision of the neutral in the switch. But all in all, it will only be a single neutral dropping to that switch, another single neutral dropping to this. Remember, when connecting two-way switches, you require 2 red cables connecting both L1 as well as L2. When it comes to activating the common switch, whereby you require the common line from the switch to the consumer unit, a red is involved. From the switch also going to the bulb, you also require a red. That is at least according to the standards that we have here in Kenya, which also apply in the UK, if I'm not wrong. When you engage our good company, which is Top Heights Electricals as well as Solar, we will help you outsourcing these materials, and we'll be sharing every information along the way, including sharing the receipts that we have bought with your hard-earned money, and ensure that we share photos in real time as well as videos so that you don't have an issue. My top bosses, thank you so much for watching our today's stream. It was such a pleasure to have you. On behalf of our top bosses, Lee, as well as Maggie, that has been very helpful on our stream, I want to thank you so much for your time. And if you're developing your property and thinking about an electrician that you can engage or a solar technician, definitely don't hesitate to consult us through our WhatsApp number, and we will definitely be of assistance. My name is John Gatehi, and this is Top Heights Electricals and Solar. Goodbye for now.